Jeff, would you like to usher us into the next segment?
No, I would like you to, since you are the biggest fan.
Oh, you think I'm the biggest fan?
Yes. Do it right, Mike.
All right. Well, we are celebrating an anniversary with the Wailers, Bob Marley and the Wailers, but really the Wailers because it is technically a The Wailers album. The album is Catch a Fire. It was their 5th studio album. It was released April 13th of 1973.
On Island Records?
On Island Records, yeah.
And
it's a great record, man.
This is the first major label album by the Wailers that got distributed worldwide outside of Jamaica. So that is the grand importance of it. This would be probably the first reggae album, like authentic reggae album that most people had heard around the world, like in white countries, English-speaking countries, along with, I'd say, the soundtrack to The Harder They Come. But this was a very impactful record. So let's get into it.
Yeah, I love this. I mean, I love this album. And especially listening to it today, we finally had like a really, really nice day. And putting this on like on the drive over here was just so great, man. It feels like a nice way to usher in the summer. And
yeah, the original release, 9 tracks, 36 minutes, so perfect amount of time.
Yep.
This album was kind of like Bob Marley produced it in Jamaica and then was trying to get distribution. He went to Chris Blackwell, the founder of Island Records, and they were like, let's put some extra sauce on this so that the rest of the world will understand this music a little bit more. So they brought in some lead guitar, some more layers of keyboards, et cetera, et cetera. Chris Blackwell, a white socialite who lived in Jamaica because his parents were millionaires and he grew up in the upper middle class around, or upper class around a bunch of poor black people in Jamaica. So some irony in the fact that he was the one to like make this civil unrest and like social justice type of album available to the world, since he's a dude who like grew up in a prep school outside of the shanty towns, like literally. Great album. I'd never listened to this album before. I'd literally only heard one song from this album ever before.
Really?
That's the hit Stir It Up, which of course is known for its iconic wad, clavinet, and lead guitar and big radio song. But I love this album, and I don't want to say I'm not a reggae guy. It's just not music that I am naturally drawn to because I find its juxtaposition of it is bouncy and soothing, but like melodically, most things are minor key and like about how life is hard. So it's kind of this like weird middle thing of like a lot of emotions, a lot of feelings in this like very gentle music. I thought it was great though, and like top tier.
Yeah.
The guitar, that there was like extra guitar added by Chris Blackwell on this record too, and that would be played by Wayne Perkins, who was I believe he was like a wrecking crew kind of guy, or
Alabama,
Muscle Shoals. So he would be the Swampers band. But yeah, Wayne Perkins plays guitar on that, and I think he is the wah-wah guitar on Steer It Up, which is one of the like kind of more like Western influences that did get added to this record. And there's some other parts on here that I think more or less add to the record's production value. Interesting of note, I like kind of, if we're talking like this is the first like Bob Marley album release like in a major way. I was listening to Soul Rebels, an album that was released in 1970 in Jamaica by Lee Scratch Perry production, and to A-B them, it's interesting because though the sound is more dub and rock steady on that release, the production on it is excellent and really, really like stylized and precise and its own thing. And then when you're getting to this record, it's almost like it's definitely more rock oriented, but you're missing that like real thump bass that you had on like the Lee Scratch Perry stuff. So just an interesting, it does sound a bit more like it's made for that ear to listen to. And even at that, I listened to the extended of this too. There was recorded like 14 or 15 songs in this session, and these were the ones that were chosen for their more like, this might get an ear outside of Jamaica.
Yeah.
Because at the same time, that like it seems like that's perversion of music. They were also trying to spread a music that had not been spread around the world yet either. Like, not a lot of people had even heard this.
Yeah.
So.
It's a great album, and to the Wayne Perkins, he also played on Concrete Jungle at the end. There's a solo there, and then slide guitar on Baby We've Got a Date.
Oh.
So that's where he's also featured. Yeah, that slide's great.
I love Baby We Got a Date, one of my favorite tunes.
Yeah, talking songs, I think this is a great album. It's great A-side as well, or side one, if you want to call it that.
I'm a B-side guy on here.
Yeah, I do like the B-side. But the A-side, I love... I love that how on 400 Years it starts off and it gives you a tempo that you think the song is going to be, and then it's like a truck slamming into a time wall, and you're like, and you just like lunge forward over the song. It's great.
Let's bring this up too, if we really haven't at this point. 400 Years, Peter Tosh, back to back on this record with "Stop That Train" on the A side, another Peter Tosh tune.
Yeah,
and lead vocals,
vocal by him as well. So this is something on like a Bob record that is,
I'll stop you right there.
Yes,
that's why. Because this is not a Bob Marley record.
Exactly.
This is a Wailers record.
Yeah.
I hate the fact that Bob Marley has become the Jimi Hendrix of reggae, where it's like there is no longer the Jimi Hendrix experience. Everything's just Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
There's no more the Wailers or Bob Marley the Wailers. It's just Bob Marley as the like monolithic empire that takes all the money from all the royalties.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of, like, I want to say that those are on there, because if you're not, like, listening or, like, paying attention, you'd be like, oh, maybe that's just, like, Bob Marley, like, singing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it just sounds like a slightly slowed down pitch.
Right, and to the point, too, that this album first came out as the Wailers. Catch a Fire had the lighter cover, iconic. You're going to see it on the thumbnail, and then was released as Bob Marley has smoking a spliff on the cover, and it's now Bob Marley and the Wailers Catch a Fire. So, very interesting that the original band had such a kind of more band feeling. There's two singers. They all contribute to the songwriting more militant, I'd say, a little bit.
Yeah, the Peter Tosh influence
in the approach.
Yeah.
And I think to me, the best part of this album is the choir of vocals. With Bunny Wailer, Peter Tosh, Marcia Griffiths, who would go on to later fame singing the Electric Slide song, Electric Boogie, and Bob Marley's wife, Rita Marley. They have these layered harmonies on pretty much every song that really just adds to the music. Particularly, I really enjoy the backing vocals on the opener, Concrete Jungle, which is like this kind of dark song. And then as soon as the harmonies come in, it like kind of opens up and shines some light in. I don't know who's singing the highest harmony on most of these songs. I couldn't tell if it was Marcia or if it was Rita, but the high, especially that high, whatever, it's almost like whistly. It's so high, but it's so set in the mix perfectly. Like the balance of all the harmony vocals is so great. I think another key figure on this album, another white dude brought in by Blackwell to play organ and clavinet on this album, a guy named Rabbit Bundrick, who was a white guy from Texas, who like would later on play with the Who on like featured keyboard
I was
stuff.
just gonna ask you, I was like, is that the Who keyboard player?
Yeah, and he played like on the Rocky Horror Picture Show soundtrack, so kind of just like a every type of keyboard type of guy. But that the organ, piano, clavinet type of like bubbling layers in the back is like, to me, the best part about reggae music, on top of the rhythm section of the Barrett brothers, Carlton Barrett, the drummer, and Aston, Family Man Barrett, the bass player. Robbie Shakespeare also plays bass on Concrete Jungle. Robbie Shakespeare would later go on to be Sly and Robbie, which was like a very famous production duo, like songwriting team in Jamaica.
You're getting a call from Mom.
Yes.
But I think, like Luke said, the production, the sound of this is not what I think of when I think of reggae music, which is that like saturated like sound of the bass.
Yeah.
The real like of like you can hear the cracks in the room and like the tiles on the floor and stuff.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that this is like very hi-fi and very like precise, because especially with headphones on, you hear you hear drums, bass, keys, guitar, lead, harm. Right, and you hear everything working in concert. And the songwriting is just like top notch.
Yeah.
No More Trouble. How about the opening of that, which like the clavinet starts, and I'm like, yo, if this hasn't been sampled for like a Wu-Tang beat, like I don't know why not. It's like the best opening like 3 seconds of this whole album.
Yeah.
And how like wonderful and like revealing like the songs like in the that aren't as like popular, aren't on Legend. Like you have no, like you said, No More Trouble, Kinky Reggae on here. It's like nice to like kind of discover something that's like right under your nose that is very popular, but like maybe you haven't listened to this album in full, and it's like the first real like statement at it. And like I love that B-side. It's like real groovy, real fun, like kind of more of like lovey party-y, where the A-side's kind of more like get down to business. So I love it. It's revealing in how like great it is as a full record. And Bob Marley made great albums, and the Wailers, original band, fire. Check it out.
And was this the last album?
No,
before Bunny and Peter Tosh left.
No, Burnin' is the last one before they left. Yeah.
Burnin' is released a little bit later in 73 or 4.
73, I think it was released in 73.
Yes, it is in 73, the
that
same year. And then they were quickly out, and Bob would take the name of the Wailers and continue without them in a completely kind of different formation for the rest of his career. And those guys would go on to do their own musical career. And
I once saw the Wailers.
Yeah.
Version of the Wailers.
Legal purposes, they were called the original Wailers, and they featured no original Wailers.
I was going to ask, I was like, was there like a guy that like played with Bob in like 76 or something?
There was a guy who played with, I think, with Tosh in the mid-'80s. It was like one of those things. Like, I think it was the lead guitar player. Because he was the only guy on stage that I was like, oh, that's a 55-year-old Jamaican man.
Yeah.
Everybody else didn't look like they would have ever been in that band.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. They were good, though. They started Stir It Up. It was like the sun was setting, and we went, all right, this is a good time to leave the set. They probably played for another 20 minutes. Yeah. But we left on that high note.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Very nice. So, yeah, great album. Tell us what you think. I mean,
yeah, great album.
Leave it in the comments below. I think it's fantastic. And just to touch real quick before we go, to touch your point in the way that, that Lee Scratch Perry production is great and it has like its thing, but I'm an Exodus guy, so like to hear a more refined, sort of recording and production, like where it starts here, like, it's just a great record. Yeah, awesome.
Bob Marley, Catch a Fire. The Wailers, Catch a Fire. Check it out. What do you think? Do you like it? Do you love it? Leave a comment. Tell us about it.
Yes.
We'll be back.
We'll be back.